Welcome back to another video. Today I'll be talking about supply chains, how they work, and the different types of supply chains. So let's dive right into it. To begin, we have to talk about what a supply chain is. The supply chain is the entire interconnected network of individuals, organization, resources, and activity involved in creating and delivering a product. What this means is that a supply chain is the product of turning raw materials into goods through many different steps. An example of this is turning wood into a table. The first step, obviously, would be cutting down the wood and making it into logs. Then, that company that cut down the wood would ship it to another company, say a company that makes the parts with the wood. Then, that company would ship the parts to the company that's actually putting together the parts to make the table, and then that company would sell it to another company that's actually selling the tables. Now, you see how many different steps there are? Well, all of these steps have people organizing everything and has different companies all doing their part in bringing together one final product. And if even one step in that is compromised, the entire chain falls apart. So, now that you understand what a supply chain is, you can learn the different types of supply chains. The first type is the continuous flow model. This is like a regular supply chain, and it's best for companies that sell the same type product in bulk. Most of these products are uniform or stay the same for long periods of time. Some industries that this model work in are like pharmaceutical companies, automotive, manufacturing, food services, and more. As you can see, all of these products relatively stay the same and need production in mass quantities. The second type of supply chain is the fast model. This type is best for companies that still need to make items in bulk. However, due to fast changing trends or technological changes, they still need to keep switching up their product. This leads to items having a short shelf life, which in turn means that the production company has to keep switching their products very fast. Some industries this type of model works in are fashion brands, electronic companies, and other consumer good companies that have products that only sell in a specific season or are deemed trendy. A really good example of this are things like summer clothes. Now, you may find a shirt that you really like in the summer, and say the price of it is $12. Now, if you go and look at that same shirt maybe in fall, you're gonna see that the price might even be turned into half, maybe even $6, maybe even $5. Now that's because the company needs to change from short sleeve shirts to coats and winter jackets. So they need to sell out their inventory really quick, so they discount the prices. Now that it can be that can be harmful for companies. That's why it's so important for them to manage their inventory and how much they create. Now, another type of supply chain is the efficient model. Now, this type is better for companies that are in ultra competitive industries. Since the efficient model lets companies get the product out in the market really fast, and like I just said before, tries to keep not too much of a product or too little of a product. So it stays right in the middle so they don't have to waste their product by putting in a discount price or having too little of it so they aren't up to the demand of the consumers. Now, really any type of company can run this model since it's really just used as kind of like to deter competitors. Since what would you rather have? A company who's selling their products at a lower price because they get their stuff quicker, or a company that's selling at a higher price because they can make their stuff quickly and efficiently. Now, the last type of supply chain is the custom configured model. This type is best used for companies that need to make personalized products for their customers. Due to this model needing the customer's order first, this model is relatively slower than the previous model. Still, companies need to use it since companies that make items like prosthetic body parts and other items still use this model. since you need to have the items personalized before someone can use them. Now, as you saw in the above examples, you might be wondering, wait, can't you just mix them all together? And you can. A lot of companies mix together things such as the efficient model and the fast model. So not only are they going really quickly, but they're also limiting the wasted products. Now this helps the company get extra profit, making the company more profitable and attractive to investors. Now, as you might be seeing in the internet over the past decade or so, we've had a couple of supply chain crises. And the biggest one being that is the COVID-19 virus. Now, you might be wondering, why was that so dangerous in the entire supply chain? Well, that's because let me take the table example from earlier. Now, say a logging company in Canada cuts down the woods, then when they're trying to supply the parts, say they use the truck to supply and bring the logs to say a US company to make the parts, they can't do that as safely since due to the pandemic and due to the lockdown, companies need to pay, say, fines to get across borders, or they need to be extra cautious, which takes more time, and that in turn leaves the company with less supply and more demand, since the consumers are still going to need the 10 tables from before. But now that the company's taking so long to make them, they're only going to have 5 tables, even though the consumer needs 10. Now, what this happens, the company's going to increase the prices, so only some people can buy the thing. So instead of, say, the $100 say the $50 table, the table's going to be $70. Now, most companies only go through this crisis when there's a big thing like, say, the coronavirus. And most companies don't randomly have supply chain meltdowns. That is because they usually have professionals who have to manage all the supply chain stuff, right? And they blend in all these models and everything to keep a stable supply chain for the company to operate. And supply chain is very important since, like I said before, the better the supply chain, the more profitable the company is, and the more profitable company is, the more investors it will get to grow the company. So, thank you guys for listening. That will be all for today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video that comes out. Thank you.